Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Aurora, gazing at the stars through the main viewing screen. For 3 months, the ship had been traversing the outer rim territories, charting unexplored systems and seeking worlds humanity could turn into new homes. Jake had done this work for 15 years, and he cherished every moment. Out here, far from the crowded colonies and busy trade lanes near Earth, space felt calm. It was 2387, and humanity had spread across 47 star systems. Most colonies were agricultural worlds or research outposts. Some mined asteroids for rare metals, while others constructed massive orbital stations where ships could resupply and undergo repairs. Humans had befriended dozens of alien species, and relations were generally peaceful. When disputes arose between two races, humans were often asked to mediate, renowned for finding solutions that satisfied all parties. Jake's science officer, Dr. Kelly Barnes, glanced up from her console, eyes bright with excitement. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual readings from the next system. Artificial structures orbiting the third planet." "Large ones? Unknown ships?" Jake asked, stepping closer. "No, sir. They resemble space stations, but the architecture is unlike anything in our records. The energy signatures are entirely unfamiliar." Jake felt his pulse quicken. First contact with an unknown race was thrilling, but also risky. Most alien encounters had been friendly, yet some had gone badly. "Set course for the system, but keep us at a safe range. Transmit a standard first contact greeting on all channels." The Aurora altered course toward the unknown system. Jake ordered every department to prepare for any possibility. The ship wasn't designed for combat but carried basic defenses. And, more importantly, powerful engines for a fast retreat. 3 hours later, a reply arrived. The signal was strong and clear, yet the language was entirely alien. Decoding took 2 hours, and when the translation appeared, a chill ran down Jake's spine. "Unknown vessel, you have entered Zaharian collective space without authorization. Hold position and prepare to be boarded for questioning." Barnes checked her sensors again. "Captain, 12 large ships inbound, much larger than anything in our fleet." Jake opened a channel. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth exploration ship Aurora. We come in peace. We were unaware this space was claimed. We will leave immediately if we've caused offense." The response was instant, voice icy. "You will not leave. You will explain why your species has violated our ancient territorial boundaries." Jake frowned. "What boundaries? We have no record of any claims here." A deeper, more menacing voice replaced the first. "Your species has settled 12 systems belonging to the Zaharian collective, claimed by our people long before your primitive world escaped its own atmosphere." Jake exchanged a bewildered glance with Barnes. The systems they named included some of humanity's oldest and most vital colonies: New Montana, which fed billions; New Dallas, a major industrial hub; and New Berlin, home to the finest universities in known space. "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Jake said carefully. "Those systems showed no trace of prior habitation when we arrived. We followed all recognized galactic protocols for claiming new territory." "Your protocols mean nothing to us," the alien voice snapped. "You will return to your home system immediately and tell your leaders they have one solar cycle to abandon. All colonies within collective space. If they refuse, we will remove you by force." The transmission cut with a sharp click. Jake stared at the darkened screen in disbelief. 12 ships were still closing in, weapon systems active. "Dr. Barnes, can we outrun them?" "Yes, sir. Barely. Their ships are quick, but the Aurora is faster." "Then get us out. Set course for Earth. Maximum speed." The Aurora swung about and fled. The Zaharian vessels pursued for hours before breaking off. The long journey home gave Jake too much time to dwell on what had happened. He'd heard of alien territorial disputes before, But nothing like this. Claims on systems humanity had occupied for over a century. Upon arrival, Jake went directly to Orbital Station New Geneva, where Admiral Lisa Carter oversaw humanity's diplomatic affairs. She was tall, with steel-gray hair and keen eyes, a veteran negotiator who had resolved more interspecies crises than anyone alive. "Captain Morrison," she greeted as he entered, "I've read your report. This is extremely serious. Do we have anything at all on the Zephyrians?" "Nothing. Our xenobiologists suspect they're insectoid, based on their speech patterns. Dr. Peterson is still analyzing your recordings." Carter turned toward the window, gazing down at Earth. "I've already spoken with President Hayes. He's convening an emergency session of the Colonial Council to decide our response. What are our options?" "Few. We could attempt negotiations, but they showed no interest. We could abandon the disputed colonies, displacing 50 million people, or we could refuse and see what follows." Jake's stomach tightened. What? About the Galactic Council? Could they intervene? "I've sent word to our allies, but disputes like this take years to settle through official channels. The Zephyrians gave us one solar cycle, less than 4 months. 3 weeks later, President Richard Hayes declared humanity's decision. The colonies would not be abandoned. The systems had been lawfully claimed and settled under all recognized galactic law. Humanity would discuss compensation or shared resource rights, but they would not uproot 50 million citizens over unsupported ancient claims. The Zephyrian response came within days. A vast fleet emerged at the edge of the New Montana system, home to 3 million farmers whose crops fed dozens of human worlds. Colony Administrator Pete Williams sent frantic messages as the alien armada approached. "They're ignoring all hails. Their weapons are charging. Civilian ships are evacuating, but there's not enough time." From New Geneva, Admiral Carter watched in horror. The Zephyrian ships were unlike anything in human records, grown rather than built, their organic curves sheathed in living tissue. When they struck, it wasn't with missiles or beams, but with a deluge of spores that devoured everything they touched. The farmlands of New Montana died screaming, fields, livestock, and finally the people themselves consumed by the alien plague. Williams evacuated about 200,000 before the spores reached the spaceport. His final transmission was stark. "They're not trying to conquer us. They're trying to wipe us out." Within 6 hours, New Montana was a corpse of a world. The fertile plains that had fed billions lay barren. The cities stood silent and empty. 3 million human lives had been erased. Across the galaxy, the watching worlds fell silent in shock. The peaceful humans who had spent centuries aiding other species in solving disputes now faced the threat of extinction. Most alien observers assumed humanity would surrender at once. After all, they had never built a true military. Their largest warships were repurposed cargo haulers with only modest defenses. But after New Montana burned, something unexpected happened. Instead of surrendering, human space erupted with activity. Factory ships that once produced farming machinery switched to building entirely different equipment. Research stations halted their scientific studies, redirecting every resource toward new projects. Mining operations altered priorities overnight. In the hastily assembled war room beneath New Geneva, Admiral Carter scanned the incoming reports from across human space. "They wanted a war," she murmured. "Now they're going to get one." General Alex Rodriguez had been enjoying retirement on Mars when the emergency call reached him. At 72, he thought his soldiering days were over, his mornings devoted to tending vegetables, his afternoons spent reading histories of Earth's ancient wars. Then President Hayes appeared on a secure channel. "Alex, we need you back. The Zephyrians destroyed New Montana. They're heading for New Dallas and New Berlin. Our current advisors have never faced anything like this." Rodriguez studied, the tactical feeds on his display, a chill settling over him. The alien attack patterns were unlike anything in human history. Mr. President, with respect, we don't have a fleet capable of fighting this war. All we have are patrol craft and converted haulers. That's why I need you, Hayes insisted. You're the only one alive who remembers when humanity knew how to fight for real. 3 days later, Rodriguez descended into the underground, archives beneath Geneva, opening files long hidden from public memory. They were sealed for good reason. Humanity had worked hard to move beyond its violent past. The wars of the 20th and 21st centuries were taught in schools as warnings, examples of what never to repeat. But with extinction looming, those forbidden, lessons might be their only hope. Meanwhile, on Deep Space 7, Dr. Susan Wright worked late in her laboratory, poring over samples of Zephyrian biotechnology salvaged from New Montana. The spores that had claimed 3 million lives were more than mere weapons. They were living organisms, each with a complex nervous system. Computer, run electromagnetic spectrum analysis on Sample 7, she instructed, leaning over her microscope. The results made her freeze, then slowly lean back in astonishment. The Zephyrian organisms displayed extreme sensitivity to specific electromagnetic frequencies. When exposed to certain pulses, their nervous systems shut down completely, an off switch for the alien weapons. Susan immediately transmitted her findings to Earth. Within hours, research teams across human space were working to turn the discovery into weapons. Peaceful scientists who had spent careers studying alien biology were now learning how to kill it. Admiral Kevin Brooks had commanded cargo convoys for 2 decades before the war began. Now he stood at the helm of something called the Human Defense Fleet, little more than hastily armed civilian ships. On the bridge of the converted mining vessel Titan's Hammer, he watched more vessels gather at the staging area near Jupiter. "Admiral, we've got 47 ships ready for combat," his aide reported. "Mostly freighters with mounted guns, mining ships fitted with ram plates, science vessels carrying experimental weapons based on Dr. Wright's electromagnetic research." Brooks nodded grimly. It wasn't much of a fleet, but it was all they had. The Zephyrians were already hitting the outer colonies, advancing toward Earth. Intelligence estimated their invasion force at over 200 ships. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the cargo hauler Lucky Strike, refitted into a makeshift warship, in under 2 weeks. Her crew of 12 were farmers, miners, and shopkeepers, none with military training, but all burning with anger over New Montana. "Captain, Zephyrian ships detected at the edge of the Titan's rest system," her sensor officer reported. 3 large vessels heading for the mining stations. Elena's pulse pounded, but her voice was steady. "All ships, this is Lucky Strike. Form up on me. Remember what General Rodriguez taught us, hit hard, then get out fast." The battle of Titan's Rest lasted just 20 minutes, but it forever changed how the galaxy saw humanity. Elena's ragtag fleet of converted civilian ships used tactics no academy would dare teach, darting through asteroid fields for cover, firing on the move at dangerous speeds. When the Lucky Strike lost its main gun, Elena ordered her crew to ram the nearest enemy vessel. The human ships fought like cornered animals, turning their ships into weapons when their guns failed, refusing to quit even when crippled. 3 Zephyrian vessels were destroyed. 2 more left heavily damaged before the human fleet withdrew. The Lucky Strike limped back to base, battered but intact, and Elena was grinning when she disembarked. "Mission accomplished, Admiral Brooks," she reported. "The aliens fight like they expect us to follow rules. We don't have any rules." Word of the victory spread swiftly through human space and beyond. Other alien civilizations began to take notice of the war between humanity and the Zephyrians. Most had expected the humans to surrender after losing their first colony. Instead, they fought back with a ferocity no one expected. General Rodriguez reviewed the battle reports in his new office at military headquarters. The transformation of human society from peaceful to war-ready was happening faster than he thought possible. Factory ships once producing agricultural machinery now turned out weapons. Research stations that had studied alien biology were inventing ways to kill it. Civilians volunteered faster than the military could train them. "Sir, we've had reports from 17 colonies," his aide said. "Mining operations are switching to weapons production. Atmospheric processors are being converted for military purposes. Even terraforming ships are mounting armaments." Rodriguez gave a grim smile. He knew exactly what this meant. Peaceful. Species never developed the kind of weapons humanity had forged in its early wars. They didn't write manuals detailing 100 ways to kill efficiently. Humanity had tried to bury that nature when it reached the stars, but it had only been sleeping, waiting for the right moment to wake. Dr. Wright's electromagnetic weapons were now mass-produced on every human world, able to cripple Zephyrian nervous systems from afar, rendering their bioweapons useless. But humans weren't satisfied. They refined the devices. More power, more efficiency, more lethality. Captain Jake Morrison, who had first encountered the Zephyrians, now commanded a squadron of armed exploration ships. His mission of mapping star systems had become a campaign to hunt enemy fleets. If he found them, he relayed coordinates to Admiral Brooks's main force. If he didn't, he went after their supply lines instead. The Zephyrians had expected resistance, but not like this. Their intelligence described humans as mediators and farmers, not predators. Yet now they faced opponents who seemed to relish combat. Human ships attacked when outnumbered. Crews fought on after losing their vessels. Colonies defended themselves with weapons that inflicted maximum carnage. Hive Queen Seth studied the mounting reports with unease. This invasion was meant to be simple. Remove the primitive humans and reclaim those systems. Instead, her forces faced an enemy that fought with unprecedented brutality. "My queen," her military advisor said, "these humans are unlike any species we've faced. They endanger themselves to achieve strategic goals. They turn civilian tools into weapons. They treat warfare as an art to master." Seth's compound eyes fixed on tactical displays showing human fleet movements, patterns chaotic yet effective. The humans struck without warning, used weapons in ways their makers never envisioned, and vanished before her fleets could respond. It was like fighting an enemy that refused to follow any logical military doctrine. "Increase our forces," she ordered. "Deploy additional bioships to every contested system. If the humans want to fight like animals, we will treat them as such." But as her commands rippled through the collective network, Seth couldn't shake the dread that she'd made a grave mistake. The peaceful species marked for removal was proving far more dangerous than expected. The humans weren't merely surviving, they were mastering war. Colonel Danny Murphy raised his binoculars toward Zephyrian positions on New Montana and felt his stomach turn. The once beautiful farming world he'd visited as a boy was now a wasteland of scorched soil and twisted metal. Alien spores had annihilated all life, and the Zephyrians had remained to build forward bases. It was time to take it back. "Sir, artillery's ready," Sergeant Lisa Cole reported from the makeshift trench beside him. "Electromagnetic pulse cannons locked on target. Alien biosensors should drop offline when we fire." Danny checked his watch. In 30 minutes, Admiral Brooks's fleet would engage Zephyrian ships in orbit. The ground assault had to be perfectly synchronized. "Remember," he told his troops, "they're tough, but Dr. Wright's data says they can't withstand sustained EM bombardment. Hit them hard and don't stop." The soldiers around him looked nothing like the peacekeeping forces of the old days. Their gear was cobbled from mining equipment and improvised weapons. Their strategies came from ancient Earth military texts most had thought obsolete. But they had one advantage the Zephyrians hadn't foreseen. They were fighting for their home. At exactly 0600, the artillery barrage began. EM pulses flared against the dawn, slamming into Zephyrian positions across the continent. Alien sensors went dead instantly, but the creatures fought on, tougher than anyone had imagined. Danny led his company forward through the barrage. Human forces advanced while their own guns were still firing, something impossible with conventional munitions. The pulses left humans unharmed but crippled every scrap of Zephyrian tech. "Contact! Front!" someone yelled as the first aliens emerged from the smoke. They were uglier than Intel images. 8 feet tall, 4-armed, plated in chitinous armor that seemed grown, not forged. Despite their bulk, they moved fast, firing streams of the same biopores that had killed the colony. The fight was vicious and close. Humans hit them with EM weapons to disable their gear, then finished with rifles and explosives. When Private Mike Johnson's gun jammed, he hurled a mining charge like a grenade. When Corporal Amy Foster's ammo ran dry, she hacked down a Zephyrian with an entrenching tool. The aliens had never faced anything like it. Most species treated war as a grim necessity. Humans treated it like a craft to perfect. They used the wounded as bait, booby-trapped their own dead, fought with creativity bordering on madness. Ambassador Tony Fletcher stood before the Galactic Council, trying to explain without sounding monstrous. Delegates demanded answers about combat footage, showing human soldiers laughing under fire, using tactics meant to terrify as much as to win. Ambassador Fletcher, the Altarian representative said through a translator, "We have reviewed New Montana's recordings. Your soldiers use psychological warfare techniques many consider excessive. Why employ such methods?" Tony's reply was careful. "Honorable representatives, my people fight for survival against an enemy that spared none of our civilians. We use whatever means necessary to defend our colonies." "But surely there are limits," the Crystalline Nexus delegate interjected. "Your forces appear to take pleasure in combat. This disturbs species who see war as regrettable, if sometimes necessary." Tony had no good answer. He'd seen the same footage, and it unsettled him too. The soldiers fought with an almost inhuman enthusiasm, as though they enjoyed it, and that, more than anything, was what terrified the rest of the galaxy uneasy. Dr. Maya Patel worked beside General Rodriguez in the Military Research Division, examining every detail they could uncover about human combat performance. Though trained as an evolutionary biologist, the war had transformed her into an expert in military analysis. What she was discovering about her own kind kept her awake through the nights. "General, my review of the combat data is complete," she said during their morning briefing. "Humans are adapting to warfare faster than any recorded species. Our forces are developing new strategies between battles. Certain units are improving their combat efficiency by as much as 30% after each engagement." Rodriguez studied the graphs she laid out before him. "What's driving this speed of adaptation?" "Traits from our evolutionary past as hunters on Earth are proving invaluable," she explained. "We are persistence predators, skilled in both coordinated group hunts and solitary survival. We can execute complex collective tactics, yet improvise instantly when plans collapse. Most alien species evolved into fixed combat roles, making them predictable. Humans are versatile." The realization was profound. Humanity had not accidentally become adept at war. They had evolved for it. Every characteristic that had made humans great explorers and settlers also made them lethal warriors. Captain Ryan Mitchell commanded the assault ship Wolverine, one of 50 vessels under Admiral Brooks's battle fleet. His mission was dangerous yet direct: seize a Zephyrian command vessel intact so intelligence could uncover the enemy's plans and capabilities. "Boarding pods ready, Captain," his tactical officer reported. "Electromagnetic charges loaded. We can disable their biosystems without destroying the target." Ryan eyed the alien formation through his view screen. The command ship dwarfed anything humanity possessed, protected by a ring of smaller escorts. Closing in would require tactics no sane officer would normally approve. "All ships, this is Wolverine. Execute Plan Chaos." Plan Chaos embodied the new human style of combat. No unified formation, no synchronized maneuvers. Each vessel would strike independently, using whatever tactics seemed effective at the moment. The aim was to sow so much disorder that the enemy could not mount a coordinated response. It worked flawlessly. The Zephyrians had drilled for disciplined, predictable fleets. They were unprepared when 20 human ships attacked from every direction, each using different strategies. Some rammed enemy craft, others turned mining tools into weapons, and a few converted freighters dropped electromagnetic mines at point-blank range. In the bedlam, Wolverine reached the command vessel, locking boarding pods to its hull. Marines cut through bioarmor with industrial cutters and flooded inside. The defending Zephyrians fought hard, but they faced opponents seemingly unafraid of death. Sergeant Tom Bradley led the push into the command center. Once the electromagnetic blasts disabled alien systems, Marines cleared each section with explosives and firearms. Toxic atmosphere filled the corridors, but humans pressed on with mining-grade breathing gear. To the aliens, the worst part wasn't the ferocity. It was the strange joy their attackers seemed to take in battle. Humans laughed when fire missed them. They cheered when they landed killing blows. The lethal boarding action felt to them almost like a sport. When the command vessel finally fell, the surviving Zephyrians were questioned by human intelligence. What they admitted stunned their captors. The collective had never faced a species that appeared to enjoy warfare. While most galactic cultures regarded combat as a grim necessity, humans treated it as a craft to master. "Your kind fights unlike any other," the captured commander said. "You risk your own soldiers recklessly to win. You twist your tools into weapons we never imagined. You act as though the battle itself gives you pleasure." The interrogation footage was sent to every fleet commander. Its meaning was unmistakable. Humanity was no longer just resisting the Zephyrians. They were becoming something the galaxy had never known, a species innately gifted in the art of war. The news swept through alien networks faster than any diplomatic update. The once peaceful mediators of the stars were now fighting with a precision and creativity that unsettled even professional warriors. Military species unsettled. They weren't fighting merely to win, they fought to refine warfare into an art. The galaxy was beginning to grasp the enormity of its mistake in underestimating humanity. The species that had once avoided battle was proving more adept at it than those born to war. Hive Queen Seth, standing in her crystalline command chamber, admitted a truth she had never considered possible. The Zephyrian collective was losing to humans. Just 3 months earlier, she had commanded the largest military in this sector. Now her fleets were scattered, forward bases overrun by foes who fought like demons. "My queen," her chief advisor buzzed through the hive mind network, "the Nexus Empire has joined our cause. Their crystal fleets are already moving toward human space. The Void Syndicate has pledged support as well. 3 great powers can crush one primitive race." Seth's compound eyes scanned tactical projections of human fleet movements. The patterns defied standard doctrine, yet were lethally effective. "Warn our allies. These humans are unlike any foe we've faced. They follow no recognizable strategy." The Nexus Empire had ruled 17 star systems for over a millennium. Their crystal warships, works of art, could annihilate planets with focused energy. Emperor Jalvex had agreed to aid the Zaharians largely out of curiosity. This was a species claiming peace, yet fighting like predators. "Admiral Thes K," he commanded from his crystal throne on Nexus Prime, "take our finest squadron and show them how a civilized people wage war. Their crude methods may best bioships, but they'll fail against our crystal hulls." Admiral Thisk bowed and departed. The Nexus military had not lost in 3 centuries. Their ships were nearly indestructible, their weapons cut through any known material. Humans would fear the crystal fleets. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Kevin Brooks watched reinforcements on long-range sensors. The war was escalating beyond human expectations. 3 alien powers united against them. "Admiral," his comms officer reported, "Nexus crystal ships in the outer system. Energy readings match a battle squadron, 12 heavy cruisers, and a command ship." Brooks nodded grimly. He'd studied Nexus tech as a cargo fleet officer. Their hulls were said to be unbreakable, but humans had been turning disadvantages into advantages for months. Dr. Wright's research suggests their crystal hulls might fracture under harmonic resonance, his science advisor added. The concept was classically human: repurpose peaceful science for war. Mining ships used disruptors to break asteroids. Modified, they might shatter crystal warships. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster led her unit through the ruins of a Zeparian supply base when she uncovered intelligence that altered everything. In alien computers were records revealing the Alliance's scale. "Colonel, you need to see this," her tech specialist called. "The Zeparians have spoken with at least 6 other races. They're calling it a coalition against humanity." Amy's alarm grew as she read. This wasn't about territory. They saw humanity as a disease to be eradicated. Multiple species were pledging ships and resources to destroy human civilization. "Send this to General Rodriguez immediately," she ordered. "If they're building a coalition, we need to know the scope." Outnumbered and outgunned, the humans had one advantage their enemies failed to grasp. They improved with every battle. What began as desperate improvisation had evolved into systematic innovation. Captain Steve Johnson commanded the Rock Crusher, once a mining ship, now the most feared vessel in the human fleet. His crew specialized in boarding actions, developing tactics no other species could conceive. "Void Syndicate energy vessels detected approach Vector 7, his sensor operator reported. 3 ships, unknown design, seemingly pure energy. Steve's smile was grim. The Void Syndicate was said to be invincible because their ships lacked physical form. Energy beings could not be killed by conventional weapons, yet humans rejected conventional limits. "Prepare containment fields," he ordered. "If they're made of energy, we'll treat them like a power source." Originally designed to hold plasma for mining, the fields would now be tested on enemy ships. The Battle of Deep Space Station 7 became legend for its audacity. The Rock Crusher advanced broadcasting surrender, luring the aliens closer. Believing the humans helpless, the energy beings moved in, only to be caught in containment fields, like insects in amber. "This is impossible," the Syndicate commander broadcast, trapped. "No physical tech can hold pure energy beings." "You're right," Steve replied cheerfully. "It shouldn't, but humans make impossible things possible." Captured ships were studied and their technology duplicated. Within weeks, human vessels carried energy weapons reverse-engineered from their prisoners. Mining gear that once contained plasma now formed the basis of a new warship class. In her lab, Dr. Maya Patel reviewed combat data and saw a transformation. Humanity, once explorers of peace, was evolving for war. "General Rodriguez, human combat effectiveness has risen over 200% since the war began," she briefed. "We're not adapting to war, we're perfecting it." "Perfecting?" Rodriguez asked, scanning charts. "Each battle gives us new techniques. Every captured alien system is adapted to our arsenal. Every mistake becomes a lesson. We treat war as a science to master, not a curse to endure." The implications were staggering. Most species fought to meet goals, then returned to peace. Humans treated war as an end, relentlessly seeking better ways to destroy enemies. Emperor Vex read Admiral Thiska's report in disbelief. 7 of his finest crystal ships destroyed by modified mining equipment. Humans had weaponized sound waves to shatter crystal hulls. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "Our ships have withstood every major power's weapons. How can primitives destroy them with mining tools?" His science advisor answered nervously. "Humans use technology in ways never intended. They weaponize civilian gear, merge alien systems, and value psychological impact over pure efficiency. The Void Syndicate was equally baffled. Energy, beings of millennia trapped by industrial containment fields. These creatures think unlike any we've known, their envoy told the Coalition. They see weapons in everything. Cargo ships become warships, mining tools become arms, science becomes military power. As Coalition defeats spread across alien networks, other species began noticing. The humans weren't just surviving. Impossible odds. They were winning through tactics no academy would teach. Their creativity in battle bordered on the supernatural. Hive Queen Seth read the latest intelligence and felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Not fear of death, but fear of what humanity might become if the war dragged on. Every battle sharpened them. Every victory increased their danger. Every captured technology expanded their reach. "My queen," her advisor reported, "our allies request urgent reinforcement. Humans are striking our supply lines with methods tailored to counter each species' strengths." Seth's horror deepened. The Coalition had made a grave error. 2. Years had passed since the Zepyrians first assaulted New Montana, and humanity had changed in ways that unnerved even their friends. General Alex Rodriguez stood in the Defiance's command center, overseeing final preparations for Operation Thunderstrike. The plan was audacious, even by human standards. It would either end the war or doom human civilization. "General, all fleet elements in position," Admiral Brooks reported. 347 ships ready to assault the Zepyrian homeworld. Asteroid bombardment platforms loaded and targeted. Rodriguez studied tactical displays. The human fleet had grown from a handful of converted freighters to the largest military in the sector. Every vessel was a hybrid of human engineering and captured alien systems. Mining craft had become dreadnoughts. Research ships, weapons platforms, even hospital vessels carried enough firepower to annihilate moons. Dr. Wright are the Hive. "Mind disruptors ready?" Rodriguez asked the scientist whose research had started the war by exposing alien weaknesses. "Yes, sir. Each asteroid carries a payload to disrupt Zepyrian neural networks. Atmospheric impact will send pulses to collapse hive mind communication planet-wide. Without coordination, their military will fall within hours." The plan was brutally simple. Rather than engage the homeworld's massive orbital defenses, they would drop modified asteroids into the atmosphere, each loaded with disruption tech capable of shutting down alien systems across thousands of kilometers. The Zepyrians would be severed from their collective mind, rendered helpless. Captain Jake Morrison, who'd first encountered the aliens 2 years before, now commanded the stealth vessel Silent Running. His mission: slip into the enemy's inner system and designate targets for asteroid strikes. Once a peaceful exploration captain, Jake Morrison was now among humanity's most formidable war leaders. "Captain, coded transmissions from the surface," his comms officer reported. "Our operatives are still active." Jake's grim smile held pride. Human special forces had been infiltrating the Zaharian homeworld for months in preparation. They had survived alien environments through captured tech and sheer resolve. Some had been behind enemy lines for over a year, yet still sent intel. Lieutenant Colonel Amy Foster was one of them, 8 months conducting sabotage missions impossible for other species. Her 12-person team had destroyed depots, comms arrays, and military sites while enduring the toxic alien world. "Colonel, fleet signal just came," her radio operator whispered from the ruins of a Zaharian biofactory. "Operation Thunder. Strike in 30 minutes. Amy checked her gear. Their task: mark critical targets to ensure maximum bombardment effect. They'd studied Zaharian infrastructure for months, learning to inflict maximum damage with minimal effort. Hive Queen. Seth felt the first asteroid strikes through the collective like hammer blows. Electromagnetic pulses swept her world like a plague, severing communication with millions. For the first time, she was alone in her own thoughts. "My queen, we're losing contact with orbital defenses," her last advisor said via crude comms. "Interference spreading faster than we can compensate." Seth reached for the hive mind. Only silence answered. The humans had done the unthinkable, cutting her from her people. Without the collective, the Zaharian military was a disorganized mass with no central command. Admiral Brooks watched the bombardment from his flagship's view screen, feeling something absent since the war's start, victory within reach. Orbital defenses failed one after another as pulses crippled biotechnology. Fleet formations collapsed as ships lost contact with command. "Admiral, incoming transmission from the surface," his COAM's officer reported. "From Zaharian leadership, requesting immediate ceasefire talks." The signal came from Hive Queen Seth herself, using primitive radio untouched by the disruption. Her voice sounded changed, smaller, more uncertain. For the first time since the war began, she spoke as an individual, not the voice of a collective. "Human commanders, I am Hive Queen Seth of the Zerian Collective. I formally request an immediate cessation of hostilities. My people surrender unconditionally. End the bombardment." President Richard Hayes received the surrender message aboard his command vessel orbiting the fallen alien world. The man who had defied the original Zaharian ultimatum now held the power to dictate their fate. The irony was not lost on him. "Admiral Brooks, order all ships to stand down," he said. "Dr. Wright, cease the electromagnetic bombardment. We've won." Silence followed. For 2 years, human space had echoed with war, ships launching, weapons firing, crews shouting in desperation. Now only quiet remained, as the greatest fleet humanity had ever assembled awaited their leader's next words. "Open a channel to the Galactic Council," Hayes ordered. "It's time to discuss terms." Ambassador Tony Fletcher addressed, representatives of 63 species, delivering demands on behalf of the very people once known for mediation. "The terms are simple," Tony declared, facing the stunned assembly. "Full reparations for destroyed colonies, recognition of expanded human territory, total withdrawal of hostile forces, and formal acknowledgement of humanity as a major military power." No one debated. None wished to face the force that had dismantled the Zaharian collective in under 2 years. Post-war intelligence revealed alien networks adopting new names for humanity: warmakers, those who perfect death, the ones who turn peace into weapons. Dr. Maya Patel reported the psychological shift: alien militaries rewriting doctrine around human tactics, some offering tribute, others requesting Earth advisors. Rodriguez listened silently. Humanity had sought peace, but mastered war, wielding it with both precision and creativity. Captain Jake Morrison stood aboard the restored exploration ship Aurora, staring into the stars. The cost was incalculable. The galaxy now feared the species that had never wished to fight at all. Civilizations studied human strategy, sought alliances, and avoided their ire. Peaceful explorers had become the most feared force in space. Yet humanity had learned a truth they could never forget. When pushed to extinction's edge, they didn't just endure. They evolved, they adapted, they perfected war. And though the galaxy had learned never to provoke them, humans were already seeking the next frontier, the next challenge, the next chance to prove that peace and destruction could exist in the same hands. The universe would never underestimate them again.